Thanks so much for tuning into the Trade Setup with me, Niraj Shah. Well, did you know that in the last 34 years, yes, the Sensex has corrected by over 10% on as many as 107 instances. We're not even 10% down, by the way, 8.7 or thereabouts currently. But if there is a 10% correction, and let's assume there was a 10% correction, it would happen at the lows as well. It's happened 107 times in the past. Par for the course, should anticipate such things, will happen in the future as well in 2025 too. Don't be perturbed by it. Okay, the markets and the US markets ended, well, flattish. The Nasdaq yet again 1/3% higher, but the Dow was quiet. Futures though marginally in the green. Asian screen is, the fun would have been to see Kospi, of course, but Hang Seng and Nikkei are about 1/4% lower. And keep in mind the big development that happened in South Korea, martial law imposed and taken away by the president in a matter of, 12 or 18 hours or thereabouts. Stunning scenes out there, to be honest. In our markets too, what has turned out to be very interesting, of course, it's going to be a flat start, so keep that in mind. But what's going to be very interesting is that after a lot of critique that came in over supposed GST rates, I think both the CBIC and FM Nirmala Sitharaman have put out their view, and in fact, not view really, but they have said, and this is CBIC which is saying that there are various reports in the media regarding the group of ministers' recommendations on GST rate changes regarding various goods and services. I think the next line is very important. They say the reports in public media on the basis of GOM deliberations are premature and speculative. A group of ministers was constituted to look into the GST rate rationalization apart from other issues. Various ministers, etc., comprise of this, but anything that is there right now is premature. Effectively, what both FM and CBIC have said, that don't go ahead and try and assume that what is there in media is the truth. A lot of changes have not been deliberated as yet, and therefore the news that will come out eventually will be different or could be different. So bear that in mind. It's a very long quote, but I've just kind of laid out this line. Media reports are premature and speculative on the GST changes. I think it's very important because a lot of people are questioning the quantum of changes that have been made on the categories that have been made, because there is a growth slowdown and we don't need these. So, or at least not the extent at which they were speculated to be. So good to get this relief. Maybe the likes of ITC, etc., bounce back a little bit in the session today. Anyways, what's the trade setup for the day looking like? I think if you just see what's happened in terms of strength, the Nifty mid cap or the BSE mid cap and the BSE small cap, the Nifty mid cap, Nifty small cap indices have made gains for 8 consecutive days. You call a dead cat bounce for 1 or 2 or 3 days. This has been 8 consecutive days. So there's been some serious buying that has happened at the broader end of the spectrum, which was punished heavily in the ensuing in the correction before, right? So which is actually a really good thing. The Nifty too, by the way, up for the last 3 days on a trot. PSU banks were up yesterday, and this I believe is largely fueled by hopes of a CRR cut. And in fact, if we see food inflation going off, viewers, I would say that a CRR cut in December and a rate gash in February is probably the base assumption. A lot of people believe that's the worst case assumption. I still don't think that we'll get a rate cut in December. We'll probably get a CRR cut and dovish commentary. I think that is probably a base assumption that you should work with, and hence I don't think, independent of whether there is a further 2.5%, 1%, 0.5%, I don't know, but PSU banks should be holding up their stead until the MPC decision comes out on Friday. The problem area I think is chemical stocks, and they're not seeing sustained buying. Stocks are moving up and then seeing selling at higher levels. It's been seen with Deepak Nitrite yesterday. I'll talk about this a bit. Or seen with Gujarat Fluorochem when it hit 4,800 and then cooled off all the way to 3,800. A clutch of other names, right? This week Gujarat Fluoro has done well, but if you look at the last 1 month, went up all the way to 4,800 and then came off as well. So a lot of these chemical stocks are seeing upticks and then cooling off as well. So that's the problem with chemicals. 3 years on a trot, they haven't created wealth. People are hoping that there will be some wealth creation, but they're not sustaining. Let's see if that changes. Okay. Stocks to watch in the session today. IEX is the first one. The November electricity traded volume was up about 16%. Real-time market volume grew about 28%. Even if prices fell a little bit, I would suspect that the stock should react to this one. So keep an eye out for IEX. Reliance Power, it's very difficult to call this one, by the way. But what's happened is positive. SECI has withdrawn the order banning the company from participating in tenders effective immediately. So therefore, company and its arms, except for Reliance New BESS, are eligible to participate in all of SECI tenders. I think this should spur some positivity out here on Reliance Power stock today. I don't track this one fundamentally at all, so don't quite know whether these are expensive or cheap valuations, if you will, so excuse me for that. But I do know that the stock will react positively today. It's a very easy assumption to make. RVNL, it's a small order win, 186 crores, but never know, could spur interest in the stock, so brought it out here. Again, Wonderla Holidays has opened its QIP, price fixed at 829 per share. If successfully subscribed, could actually spur interest in this one as well. So watch out for Wonderla in the session today. Zentech is the interesting one. The promoters, Kishore Dutt Atluri and Ashok Atluri, have sold about 10 lakh shares respectively at 1801. Motilal Oswal bought about 11 lakh out of those 20 lakh shares. The interesting piece is the stock was down 5% yesterday because post a QIP, the promoters have come out and sold stake. A few people may not have taken to it very kindly, or maybe because of the pricing. But let's see, Motilal Oswal is an informed buyer. They've bought about 11 lakh out of those 20 lakh shares. Maybe the stock reverses some of those losses made yesterday. Watch out for this one. Deepak Nitrite, like I said, Motilal Oswal Midcap 30 Fund sold about 0.55% stake in the company at a price of 2653. Hence, the stock was down about 5% yesterday, and which is the point I was making. They are great businesses, some of these, but the stock prices are not quite able to see sustained momentum. Can that change post the December quarter numbers? Because I think the expectation in the street is that post Jan, I think for chemical, for CDMO companies, the real fun and magic could start. Watch out for these. Some granules was down about 10% yesterday, but now has entered the FNO ban, and therefore the corrective move may not be as swift as it was yesterday. But do watch out for this one because of the OAI on its Gagilapur facility. It's the strictest form of regulation that can come in from the US FDA, has come in from the granules plant. There was expected resolution. That hasn't happened. And in fact, the situation has worsened. So will not recover. But because it's in the FNO ban now, the correction, if any today, may not be as severe. There is a brokerage note. Systematics has come out with a note on pipe stocks. They say that the ongoing projects provide earnings visibility for the next 4 to 5 years. Introduction of new projects could drive a re-rating. They in fact expect Jindal SAW to re-rate on accelerated deleveraging and onset of new growth capex. So they were buy on Jai Balaji with a 34% upside and a buy on Jindal SAW with a 41% upside. Do watch out for both of these stocks in the session today. There is also a Nomura note on Oberoi Realty. They have a buy with a target price of 2,500 or 2,550. So do watch out for Oberoi Realty as well in the session today. May show a bit of an uptick. Lastly, just want to end with an Old Bridge newsletter. When Kenneth Andrade talks, you should listen. And he says that in order to generate returns, one may need to rotate out of popular market segments into neglected segments, if you will. Success lies in avoiding consensus and identify businesses with potential for incremental gains. I think that's the mantra according to Kenneth Andrade. Yeah, well, think of it. Popular schemes, you may want to recheck the valuations and try and adjust portfolios accordingly. Thanks so much for tuning into the Trade Setup.